Alright, so it's 2022 and I decided to take a holiday in a location that will remain undisclosed for legal reasons. And let me tell you something, COVID is not over. So I've got to attempt to complete every single activity while the world is barely out of a complete lockdown. But there's another problem. I've already paid for everything. So if I do get sick, the only thing I'll enjoy is the world's most expensive quarantine. That's good enough.
Welcome to the National Aquarium.
Hey there, David. Thanks for helping me out on this one. I know it was last minute, but you do kind of owe me since I helped launch a career back in 1954. The good old days. Anyway, after getting something stuck inside me for the second time that day, the test results came back negative, so we headed to the sea to do my favorite type of activity, wet. And now, I want you all to give a warm welcome to my good friend and colleague, David Attenborough.
Thanks, bro. You're a real one for that. Anyway, let's begin. The breeding grounds of the common turtle are closely linked to the seahorse, who are a whopping above average size of 2.5 inches. Here we can see the final resting place of the airplane that was used in 9/11. Not the terrorist one, the one that was providing medical assistance. A blue macaw appears, featured heavily in the movie Rio. These feathered creatures contrast sharply to the human bipeds, whose scientific name is the Homo phobic.
So when I said wet activities, I wasn't kidding. We went jet skiing. It was so fucking sick. Jet ski is fucking sick, and it was sick as fuck.
So one day later, after it rained all night, I got up extremely early. Extremely early, 4 a.m. The sun was not up, however, I was. But as I always say, the early bird gets the worm, so we headed to another test. Why so early, you might be asking? Well, I needed a negative result by 8 a.m. because I was going sandboarding and quad biking. Now sandboarding, that was no problem. Quad biking was the issue because they didn't let you go if you didn't test negative. So for the first, but not the only time that day, I got something stuck inside me.
I am Iron Man. Thank you.
And now we wait. Well, I'll be sandboarding, but you can wait.
It has been raining all night, and I've never sandboarded on wet dunes before, so this should be very interesting. I'm really not sure what to expect. I'm actually at the top of a dune right now, and I'm about to go down this big mountain. Anyway, here we go.
As I was busy sandboarding and failing to do front flips, a random Land Cruiser drove up next to me and told me to get in. Who cares about kidnapping, I thought, so I got in. Big shout out to the guy who got the second camera angle and sent it to me. 3 hours later, the time had come, the test results were in, and I have to announce, they were negative, so next up, quad biking. If anyone watching has ever been quad biking, I'm sure you'll know the feeling of being stuck behind a bunch of inept, slow riders who would do very badly in the apocalypse because of their abysmal speed. Of course, there were times I got away from them, and honestly, as I rode staring directly into the sun, I was happy that these dunes would be the last thing I would ever see. At this point, I was packing my stuff for a second time because 12 hours later, we were going diving in a hotel next to the sea. I still thought I could do a front flip. I couldn't. Eventually, it got dark and we went to sleep.
I've just woken up and I would not do this again.
Now, I have no footage of this and no way to prove it, but that night I slept outside on a deck chair on the beach. I'm not kidding. I woke up as the sun was rising behind the island and the waves were washing ashore. But since everyone already knows what the sun looks like, we can keep it moving because I had to get ready almost immediately. Diving that to 20 meters is fun, but my favorite part was coming up super quickly. It kind of tickled. And after breakfast, it was time for a water park above this random, unknown skyline. I think I went on every single slide, but the last one was probably the best.
Finally, it was nearly time to get on the plane to fly back home, but before that, there was one more thing I had to see. Expo 2020. The Expo is an event that happens every 5 years since 2000, but has been going on since 1851. Every country in the world gets their own pavilion to showcase and present things from their country, so it's basically a huge international gathering. It had been delayed 1 year because of COVID, and now you're allowed in, once again, only with a negative test result. Luckily, 2 days ago, I received another negative from this test.
That's this fun.
Unluckily, test results were only valid for 48 hours, and it had already been 47 hours since that test. That's 1 hour left for anyone struggling. From our hotel room, we rushed to the car, drove to the train station to then get on the Expo bus, and finally, we were outside Expo 2020. We definitely made it on time, and I definitely didn't edit a certain test result so I could get in.
The Expo was honestly one of the most incredible places I've ever been. It was a giant city full of epic buildings and designs, and I had 16 hours to spend there. I barely finished seeing everything because of how huge the place was. I'm going to try and show you the very best parts, but if it wasn't cut down, this video would easily be 3 hours long. From Pakistan, we went to England, where words people wrote appeared outside. I discovered that swear words were not allowed. I have to take a moment to apologize for this fit and haircut, which you'll unfortunately see more of later on. Moving on, I headed into the Bahrain underground car cave and this slide which you weren't allowed to film. This weird spiral thing was the Spanish pavilion, and I don't know what that even was supposed to be. Into the Switzerland hotbox I headed next, where I also found a ball pit, and you know I had to jump in and experience the familiar feeling of balls smothering my face. Netherlands is the greatest country in the world, especially since they gave me this overpriced waffle, which was the best thing I've ever eaten.
I'm gonna kill myself when I drop this.
I'd eaten nothing all day, but still. There were these giant structures which moved around to follow the sun like sunflowers, and so many other amazing buildings. Of course, these were nothing compared to the colourful modern art room. I saw Gandalf right before I went into the USA pavilion. In here I touched the moon, 4 billion years old, so no diddy. That's what they said this was anyway, it might have been a random rock. And this was an Elon rocket. As it got dark, the Expo light show started in all the different pavilions as I kept walking around each one. Kazakhstan had some musicians playing, and right next to that was the UAE pavilion. I don't know if this was the best building in the whole place, but it was top 5 for sure. This huge room was filled with real sand to make a bunch of indoor sand dunes. Italy had this statue that was absolutely bricked up, and next door was Saudi Arabia with a fountain. Some guy jumped in and the security was really happy about that. I kept moving through pavilions as it kept getting later. China, Colombia, Indonesia, and so many more. Eventually I had to go, but not before this robot just brutally ignored me.
Now I'm leaving the Expo, and this time I'm not coming back. I am coming back because I went the wrong way, but apart from that, I'm not coming back. So I had to get the metro, and unfortunately it doesn't drop me off right at the hotel door. So after walking around the Expo for the entire day, I'm now walking around Dubai attempting to find my hotel. I don't know where it is. I'm just walking, hopefully I find it. So I made it to the hotel and I'm so happy. I could not walk a single more step, and I did not realize that my feet and legs could hurt this much. But if you couldn't tell, I'm very happy that I'm back at the hotel.
And then it was over. We had done everything. That night we drove to the airport and finally got on a plane to go back home.
Sadly, we're now leaving Dubai for a really long time. Stop videoing me!
Big thank you to anyone still watching. Make sure you like and subscribe. And now that's it. I'm done.